You've probably heard the phrase, let your money work for you. But here's the hidden truth. Money doesn't work unless you feed it enough weight. Compounding isn't magic, it's physics. You can start early, you can follow every piece of advice, and still feel like nothing is happening. And the reason is simple. Compounding feels painfully slow until one powerful framework flips the switch, the 7-to-5-3-1 rule, a blueprint that takes compounding from frustratingly flat to explosively real. Meet Daniel. At 26, he lived modestly, skipped Starbucks, and invested $150 a month with religious discipline. He was the poster child for doing everything right. 10 years later, he opened his account. Balance? $24,000. Disappointed, he thought, did I mess this up? The answer, no. He followed the rules, but no one warned him that compounding punishes small beginnings before it rewards persistence. Think of a snowball. No matter how perfectly you roll, if you start with a snowflake, nothing moves. Daniel wasn't lazy. He was undercapitalized. So, is compounding a scam? Not at all. But if you've ever wondered why the wealthy seem to build fortunes faster, even when they start later, this video is for you. Because today we're breaking down why compounding feels slow and how the 7-to-5-3-1 rule kicks in to change everything. If you're serious about building wealth smarter, subscribe right now so you don't miss the strategies that turn frustration into financial freedom. Let's kick things off with a question that frustrates a lot of people. Why does compounding feel like it's not working? Compounding is supposed to be the eighth wonder of the world, but when you first try it, it feels more like the eighth disappointment. You save, you invest, you reinvest, and after years, your balance barely moves. Why does this happen? Because compounding doesn't move in straight lines, it moves in curves, and every curve starts with a flat stretch. The early years of compounding are the most discouraging because the numbers feel microscopic. Put in $200 a month at a 7% return, and after 3 years, you might have around $7,800. That's not life-changing. That's a decent emergency fund, and this is where most people quit. The psychology is brutal. We're wired to want instant results. Our brains crave progress we can see. But compounding punishes impatience. It hides its rewards behind time. That's why Warren Buffett earned 99% of his wealth after his 50th birthday. Not because he was a genius with secret strategies, but because by then the weight of his capital finally let compounding bend the curve upward. The tragedy is that most people give up at the exact moment they need to push through. They stop saving, pull money out, or chase something shinier. And every time they do, they reset the clock. So if the first years feel hopeless, what's the real threshold where compounding starts to show its power? That's where the first number in these rules comes in. The number 7. 7 years. That's the minimum horizon you need before compounding starts to feel real. Why 7? Because history shows that across market cycles, 7 years is the point where the flat line begins to curve. In fact, studies on systematic investing reveal that investors who commit to at least 7 years almost never see negative returns. Think about it this way. The stock market doesn't move in smooth increments. It swings. In a 2 or 3 year window, you might catch a downswing and feel like compounding is broken. But stretch the horizon to 7 years, and those bumps begin to smooth out. By then, the snowball has picked up enough size to roll on its own. Here's the part that surprises most people. 7 years is still short in the world of compounding. The real magic happens after 10, 15, even 20 years. But if you can lock in for at least 7, you give yourself the runway to actually see momentum. Anything less, and you're judging the engine before it has even warmed up. And it's not just about patience, it's about mindset. 7 years forces you to stop thinking in terms of this month or this quarter and start thinking in terms of cycles. You begin to shift from reacting emotionally to planning strategically. Now, surviving 7 years takes more than just waiting. It takes structure. And that's where the number 5 in the 7-5-3-1 rule comes into play. Diversification isn't about owning a little of everything. It's about building 5 strong pillars that support your compounding engine. That's the mission of number 5 in this compounding rule. The first pillar is broad market index funds. These give you exposure to the economy's overall growth. The second is dividend-paying stocks, which provide steady cash flow that can be reinvested. The third is mid and small cap growth, which add higher risk but also higher potential reward. The fourth is global exposure, because the world is bigger than any one country, and international markets diversify your risk. And the fifth pillar is defensive assets like bonds or cash reserves, which stabilize your portfolio during volatility. Why these 5? Because compounding doesn't work if your portfolio is lopsided. Put everything in one bucket, and a single crash wipes out years of progress. Spread across these 5, and you create resilience. Some pillars will underperform while others thrive, but together they balance out into steady compounding. Imagine a house. Would you build it on one pillar? Of course not. One crack and the whole thing falls. But with 5 pillars, your foundation stands strong through storms. Even with diversification, the real threat to compounding isn't numbers, it's emotions. That's where the number 3 comes in. Compounding isn't just math, it's psychology. And there are 3 emotional traps that most investors fall into before they ever see the payoff: disappointment, frustration, and panic. The first trap is disappointment. This happens when your returns don't meet your expectations. You've invested faithfully for a few years, but the balance still looks underwhelming. That disappointment whispers, maybe this isn't working. The second trap is frustration. This sets in when you compare yourself to others. Maybe your friend put money in real estate and brags about quick gains, while you're stuck waiting on compounding. Frustration makes you feel like you chose the wrong path. And then comes panic. This is the most dangerous trap. It strikes when markets drop and your account balance falls below what you've invested. Fear convinces you to pull your money out before it gets worse. But pulling out resets the clock, killing your compounding momentum. Here's the truth. Every investor faces these 3 emotions. The difference between success and failure is whether you give in or push through. And that's why we are building the Trip to Wealth Command Center. It's a simple Google Sheet system that helps you track your income, spending, and net worth in one place. More than a tracker, it's a strategy hub. It shows you where your money leaks, where it grows, and how small changes compound over time. Because when you can visualize your progress, you're less likely to fall into disappointment, frustration, or panic. You'll find the early access waitlist link below. But mindset alone isn't enough. You also need a practical way to scale your efforts. That's where number 1 comes into this rule. The last number in the 7-5-3-1 rule is 1. 1 annual increase in your contribution. Why? Because static contributions don't keep up with inflation, income growth, or your goals. Scaling even a little makes a massive difference. Let's say you invest $500 a month. That's great. But if you increase that amount by just 10% each year, so $550 next year, $605 the year after, and so on, the difference over 20 years is staggering. Instead of ending with around $240,000, you could end up with over $400,000. That's the power of 1 annual boost. Think of it like fitness. If you lift the same weight forever, your body stops growing. But if you add a little more weight each year, your strength compounds. Money works the same way. The best part? You don't have to make giant leaps. 1 small increase each year, aligned with your income growth, builds momentum without straining your lifestyle. And if your employer offers a raise or bonus, you can funnel part of it directly into your compounding engine. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far and want more topics like this, comment the word "more" down below. Now that you know the framework, 7531, let's put it all together into a step-by-step plan you can start today. Here's how you apply the rule in real life. Start by committing to at least 7 years. Write it down, set the expectation, and remind yourself that quitting early kills compounding. Next, diversify across the 5 pillars. Allocate percentages that match your risk tolerance. Maybe 40% in index funds, 20% in dividend stocks, 15% in mid-caps, 15% in global exposure, and 10% in bonds or cash. Adjust as you grow, but keep those pillars balanced. Then, prepare for the 3 emotional traps. Expect disappointment, frustration, and panic, and have strategies ready. Use tools like the Trip to Wealth spreadsheet to visualize your long-term curve. Remind yourself that temporary feelings don't define permanent results. Finally, implement the 1 annual boost. Automate a contribution increase every year, even if it's small. Build it into your budget so it becomes second nature. This isn't about chasing quick wins. It's about designing a system where compounding has no choice but to work. So what's the payoff if you stick with it? That's where mindset meets freedom. The 7531 rule isn't just numbers. It's a mindset shift. Most people think compounding is a waiting game. It's not. It's a positioning game. You position yourself for 7 years of commitment. You build 5 pillars of diversification. You outlast 3 emotional traps. And you lock in 1 annual boost that accelerates your curve. Do this. And something remarkable happens. What once felt like a slow grind suddenly feels like momentum. The curve bends upward. The growth compounds not just in dollars, but in confidence. And here's the kicker. Once compounding takes off, it doesn't just add, it multiplies. The last 5 years of your plan can contribute more than the first 10 combined. That's the moment when you stop feeling stuck and start feeling free. This is the payoff of patience with structure. Not blind waiting, but intentional positioning. So before we close, let's recap what you've learned and why this matters. Compounding feels brutally slow in the beginning. That's why so many people quit before it ever works. But this rule gives you a roadmap to survive the flat years and reach the curve. 7 years of commitment ensures you stay long enough for cycles to smooth out and growth to appear. 5 pillars of diversification keep your foundation strong, so no single storm can topple you. 3 emotional traps, disappointment, frustration, and panic, remind you that the real battle is in your head, not the market. And 1 annual boost transforms a flat contribution into an accelerating engine. Follow this rule, and you stop compounding frustration and start compounding wealth. You stop guessing and start trusting the process. The snowball finally rolls. The curve finally bends. And you realize compounding was never broken. It just needed the right structure. So now you know why compounding feels slow and how the 7531 rule flips the script. This isn't about waiting blindly. It's about building weight, balance, and resilience into your money. 7 years, 5 pillars, 3 traps, 1 boost. That's the formula. If you're serious about building wealth, apply this today. Don't just watch the video and move on. Set your plan, automate it, and stick with it. If this hits home, don't just let it be another video. Apply it. Because once you do, compounding stops being a theory and becomes your reality. Remember, this video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice. It is important to conduct thorough research and consult with financial professionals before making any investment decisions. The value of investments can fluctuate, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Always assess your risk tolerance and investment goals before allocating your capital. And if you found value today, I highly recommend watching my next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to leave your comment below. I appreciate your support. Until next time, stay consistent, stay patient, and stay winning. See you in the next one, Money Magician.